Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
John, it's officially football season, and that's a great thing, don't you think?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's that time. I always felt like fall was one of the better times of the year with football starting and baseball, and getting ready. The playoffs will be in another month or so, and yeah, it's a fun time of year.
So the high school football season kicked off on Friday night, and I thought we said this. We did a pregame show Friday night before the pregame show. We did a Brown Sports Bag on the road, and as we closed out that show, one of the things we said was we felt like this is a season, the three primary schools we cover, that we could be excited about all three of them's football seasons. And that's not something we could say very often. Really in conjunction all at once. I can't think of a time in the 21 years I've been here where I've thought going in, all three of them have a good chance to have good seasons this year. And so Friday night was not a disappointment in terms of the win column for us. Barren County beat Metcalfe County, Glasgow beat LaRue County, and Caverna survived and beat Muhlenberg County. But we're going to kick off the show talking about the Barren County game. We're going to break each one of these down into three segments. The three segments probably won't be as long as we usually have on these, so we'll have a closing segment that's going to be a little bit longer. We're going to cover a lot of stuff in that segment. So if you're a volleyball, soccer, cross country, et cetera fan, then you stick around to that last segment. But let's talk about this Barren County football team. John Myers' first game as a head coach. They beat Metcalfe County 54-14, and really from the get-go, they looked really good running John's wing tee offense, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they played well. First game in particular, I thought they played well. They put 40 up, I think, at halftime.
Yeah.
And got the running clock midway through the third, I agree offensively. I thought they were very, very sharp. I mean, there's some execution probably flaws that Coach Myers would see that I probably didn't see, but some penalties, too many penalties. But
yeah.
But other than that, I mean, Tate Spillman running that offense, you could just tell the ball handling that he has, the fakes, and then the choices that he makes off play action pass. They didn't throw it very much. I said it last week. I thought it'd probably be 75-25 rate, and of course it also depends on maybe who you're playing a little bit. And I think they only threw it 6 times, but they were very efficient when they did throw it.
Yeah.
A couple of touchdown passes and
big one right there before halftime that Jackson Bird jumped over 2 dudes to get. So.
Yeah, like 40 yards, or that wasn't a 40-yard one, but it was he played well. I was very impressed with the line. I thought the offensive line was really, really good.
Yeah.
And they have real good size on the line, bigger than they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
And schematically with the wing tee, it's like most wing tee offenses that I've seen. There's really no back carried it more than 5 or 6 times.
Right.
So you have several backs. Cody Kearney, the fullback, is somebody that's going to be involved heavily. He and Corbin Wells, the other fullback.
Yeah.
It seems like everything kind of revolves around that fullback. Whether he gets it or it's faked, it's going to go to him. And he and Wells played well. Briggs Harris, sophomore, who's also the backup quarterback as well. He plays one of those wing backs, and he's got really good speed. A sophomore, and he had a 40-yard scamper for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think he only carried it 2 or 3 times, but when he did get it, he made big plays. Waylon Clemens, who has never played offense,
right.
He scored as well, and he probably had 3 or 4 carries. And I thought he was good. So, those backs, and that's not including the backs that are hurt and didn't even play.
Yeah,
Dalen Thomas and people like that didn't even play. Plus some people late in the game, some sophomores that got in late, I thought looked really good too. And then you throw in the outside, the receivers with Bewley and Jackson Bird, and it could be an offense that could down the road be very difficult to stop.
Well, talking about that Briggs Harris run, the 40-plus yard run or whatever it actually was, I don't remember the exact
41,
yardage.
41.
Yeah. There was nobody near him.
Well, that's because of the fake. I think everybody went with the fullback.
Yeah,
and I think Jay on the air even caught it. He thought the fullback had it at first,
right.
And here was because it is hard to follow. To be honest with you, it's hard for us to follow in the booth calling the game. I know it's hard for the defense. And he basically, I think he went untouched around I think it was the right end that time. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and when I saw him come around there, like I was looking in the line as I'm shooting my photos, and then I realized that was the guy who actually had the ball, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss this shot. I managed to get one of him running,
right,
but not really as he was coming down the field because I was too slow to it. But that's how good it was. Is I just kind of looked up and realized he had the ball, and there was nobody in the stadium who thought he had it. I mean, he was just running clean. But like you said, that's the fakes and that's that offense. And I was just impressed at how well they executed that offense for the first game of the season. And yeah, they did have a few penalties, but really even in that front, they didn't have a bunch of the, false start penalties or the kind of, 2 men in motion. I think they did have one of those. But sometimes in those kinds of offenses where somebody gets happy, then they're going to get the ball and they're a little ahead of the snap, that kind of stuff. They didn't have those kinds of things as much as you might expect to see when your whole team's running a new offense. And I know they've been working on it for a while, but still that first game, a lot of times you see a lot of those kind of not sure of yourself things happen. And they just played in that offense like they were very comfortable.
Well, they did. I mean, they did look comfortable and so forth. There was no real major penalties. Not what I call major. I don't remember a personal foul or an unsportsmanlike, which oftentimes are undisciplined penalties. I don't remember seeing any of those. And and on the defensive side of the ledger. I thought Colton Thomas, who's moved from linebacker, or I think he played linebacker some end, he's moved to the interior of the defensive line.
Yeah.
He had a numerous amount of quarterback hits and hits in the backfield. I thought he was really, really good. Braden Houchins from that linebacker position, I thought made several tackles as well. It was good. And, all in all, a good win for Barren, a running clock against Metcalf, against a team that Metcalf had a new quarterback and several new backs. But I like the quarterback. I think he throws a good ball. And I would not be surprised by the end of the year that Metcalf may win more games than they lose.
Right.
Sometimes people go, well, did Barren look that good or is Metcalf that down? I think Barren looked good, and I don't think Metcalf's that bad either.
No. I was impressed. Like I talked to Coach Myers after the game, I guess if there was only one negative, there was a couple of opportunities where they gave up some big pass plays, that kind of stuff to Metcalf County, going back to what you were saying about the quarterback looking good. Whenever he had some time, he was actually dangerous, but that's also a testament to what you were just talking about with the defensive front and the linebackers. The Trojans spent a lot of time chasing him around in the backfield. And outside of their first drive, when their running back got a few big hits, runs there, they actually did a much better job on him after that, trying to cut down those outside pitches and that kind of stuff.
And in defense of Metcalf, I'm sure what Coach Harbison would also say was that the first two scores by Barren were off Metcalf turnovers.
Yes.
They fumbled on right around the Barren 30 and 35, and then Barren went in.
Yeah.
And then they misplayed a punt.
Right.
It was the snap of the punt where the snap was high. The punter from Metcalf decided to try to run it and was tackled right around the 10 or 15 of Barren. So Barren had short fields to start off their first two scoring drives, and they took advantage of it.
Right. Well, and again, it's I thought in all phases, except for maybe allowing some receivers to get behind them on the defensive side, I thought they looked good there. Because the question coming in, another one for them was, last year they had to rebuild their defensive front and their linebacker core. And then some injuries have led to some of the guys that we thought would probably be out there playing, not out there playing. And so how are these guys who've been asked to step in going to look? And they look good.
Yeah, man, they still have a couple of guys that are expected to play big roles on offense and defense who did not play that should be back either this week or the next week.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they got Trigg County coming up this Friday, and I think Trigg County is going to be a different animal in terms of how they like to play, at least based on the way they were last year, where they had a couple of pretty good receivers. They threw the ball around. tried to hit some big plays. Barren played well in that game last year when they won it, I thought, and I'm curious to see, what kind of adjustments they have to make, if any, to deal with Trigg County. I'm sure they will have to make some because you're just dealing with a different kind of offense that you're going to play against. And Trigg County they're not. They've had moments where they've had some pretty good teams through the years.
They've had good teams.
I don't know where they are right now.
Yeah, they've had good teams in the past. Trigg County, they had a Mr. Football down there several years ago. Maybe it was in the 80s or 90s, and they've been in state finals in 1A, 2A. They kind of go back and forth between those. But they won 2 games last year.
Yeah,
and they are coming off a win to start the year off against Callaway County.
Yeah.
But Callaway County, I think, only won 1 game last year, so right. it's kind of a tough read. Trigg County will probably have more tradition. They have team speed, so they'll probably have more team speed than Metcalf. But I would be surprised if Barren, each game is week by week and so forth. But I think Barren will be a pretty sizable favorite going into the game.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, last year, one thing that happened to Trigg County is they had some top players. It's just that they were hit heavily by injuries last year. I think they had like 7 guys out when Barren played them in that second game last year.
And I don't know if they're back, they've graduated or what. I have
right.
no idea. So, we'll see when they come over here, and it'll be a busy night because the first game will be Greenwood and Warren East.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty nice coup to get the 2 Bowling Green schools to play each other here rather than play home games, leaving Bowling Green to come up here. So that's kind of a nice deal. So it should be I don't know how many people Trigg will bring,
right.
but Barren and Metcalf had a really good crowd.
Couldn't get out of the parking lot after the game.
Great crowd, good gate. And coming off that win, I know the Barren people will show back up as well on top of the Greenwood Warren East. It should be a lot of people here on Friday night.
Also, we will have that game right here on 104 The Score. It's supposed to be an 8 o'clock kickoff. You never know about these bowl games, how that's going to shape up, right?
It'll be closer to 9.
Yeah, and so, so there'll be a pregame with Jay Turner. Now, you will not be there on Friday.
I'm not. I'm going to be hit and miss some this year. I hate to do that, but I got a nephew that plays for Lexington Lafayette in Lexington. He's a sophomore, and I'm going to try to get to some of those games as well, so I'll have to miss this week.
Yeah, so, but anyway, we'll have that, and then we're also going to do a pregame from 5 to 6. That'll be from over at Glasgow before their game against Russellville, so you'll be able to catch that part too. And otherwise, you can catch all the Barren County football games right here. Also, we carry the video of it. Also, it's on the BCHS Live and on YouTube.
Very well done, too, I think.
Yes, I believe so. Aaron Russell and the students doing a really good job.
I agree.
And then you can click on the Barren County page on 104thescore.com and find it on there as well if you would like to watch it through there. All right, it's Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag. John Butler and I. We're going to talk about the Glasgow Scotties' 40-7 win over LaRue County at Elizabethtown Sports Park. The Scotties, I think I told you this. I was pretty impressed with their performance in the scrimmage against Logan County the Thursday before the season, started the season. I was impressed by the totally new offensive line, how well they did, at least in their first drive. I thought they did a pretty good job pass protecting in that game overall in a couple of instances. And I really thought after the first bit, Hudson Gum settled down and threw the ball well in that game. Well, I tell you what, that did not change Friday night against LaRue County. As a matter of fact, they were even better in that game than they were in the scrimmage against Logan County. Cameron Bull ran the ball well. Hudson Gum scrambled some, threw some nice passes. They got the ball out into space to guys like Kanan Allen and I think Jalen Bradley and Kellen Stone and then Jarek Martin. They did everything that they wanted to offensively in that game. And, they're running basically an I formation, but then they're kind of running some spread out of that. But they're running some, I don't know, I would say maybe some Rick Wood I formation stuff. Because they ran some misdirection out of the I formation that got them some big plays. And I just was generally impressed with how they played in that game. And I expected them to beat LaRue, but I didn't know what it was going to really look like because you just, when you lose 20 players and you got 20 new ones on your football roster from last year, you just don't know how that's going to go again on that first night. You never know how that first Friday's going to go. But they keep playing like that. They look like a really good team.
Well, it's a good win. I don't know how good LaRue's going to be.
No, I don't
They just
either.
won one last year. But for a team that lost so many players like Glasgow, you can't ask for a much better performance.
Right.
The new quarterback, Hudson Gum, you mentioned, 14 of 16, 158 yards and a touchdown. And that's close to perfect.
Yeah. I tell you what, also that touchdown he threw was one where he was flushed out of the pocket and he was going to his right, and I didn't even see the guy that he was throwing the ball to, who was Grayson Bartley, in the back of the end zone. Grayson was all by himself. It was just excellent vision to not just run with the ball or throw it away or throw a bad pass to, say, your primary receiver, like if Jarrett was your primary on that play. A lot of times high school quarterbacks would just try to force the ball in there to their primary guy. He waited and threw it like a dart dime basically in the back of the end zone, and Grayson Bartley got 2 feet down. It was an NFL touchdown. It was a beautiful play, really.
Well, yeah, so you can't ask for a better start from your quarterback.
Right.
Like most things in athletics, confidence is is so important.
Right.
It's in particular, I think, more important to have confidence if you're one of the decision makers, like a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that a defensive lineman didn't need confidence, but
Right.
it's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Not only confidence for yourself, but to go out and perform that way also, I think, gives your other players that are dependent on you confidence that you can make those plays too.
Yeah.
And in football, I think it's really, really important that people see that, hey, my quarterback can play. Mm-hmm. So, that's a great start for him. Cameron Bull, who had a really good year last year too.
Yeah.
Carried it 11 for 113 yards, 3 touchdowns. Nobody really, other than him, carried it much more than 3 or 4 times, I don't believe.
Right.
So, overall, a really good start for Glasgow.
Going back to the LaRue County side of things, this LaRue County program at the moment is probably as low as it's ever been. I mean, because it's traditionally a pretty solid football program.
Yes.
And one of the things was I thought their quarterback really struggled, and maybe part of that was guys like Keevian Massey were in the backfield chasing him around quite a bit. But also the secondary for Glasgow played well. They had 2 interceptions, and the one I think Jalen Bradley had, that quarterback had to have believed his wide receiver was open when he threw that ball, because Jalen did not look to be in the vicinity of him, and he just ran by him and picked it off. Like Jalen, I don't know if Jalen was covering somebody else, but he just cut back and closed in and caught that, intercepted the ball basically in front of the receiver. And those were some plays too that I was just impressed with, because Jalen's a sophomore, I believe. He's one of those guys that Coach Garman mentioned that has a lot of skill.
Yeah, he's one of the fastest players he's ever coached too.
Yeah.
I believe that's the one, right?
Yeah, and I mean he's everywhere on the field, and guys like. You expect Jarek Martin to play well in secondary, but you had guys like Kanan Allen, Kellen Stone, who also I think had a rushing touchdown in the game for them. Didn't get used much on the offense. He's a defensive back a lot of times, but he's got a lot of speed too. So, I mean, it's not just that speed is out there for the Scotties. What I saw, especially on the defensive side, was that speed coupled with folks who were making plays, which you don't always see in football.
That's correct. So, yeah, I mean, offensively, defensively, I don't think there's always things you can get better and correct and so forth. But I think both for Metcalf and Barren, both coaches have to be pleased with the start.
Yeah.
You can't go undefeated unless you win the first one. I've always said that.
It's very true, John.
Yep.
So now, if you look at Glasgow's schedule, we were talking about Barren having Trigg, and that's going to be a different animal. I mean, Russellville will be a different animal than LaRue County, but, man, they lost to Warren Central 8-6 on Friday night.
I don't know if it's going to be much of a different animal.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if the outcome will be much of a different animal.
Yeah, Russellville has really struggled the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And losing to Warren Central 8-6, I don't think Warren's. In one sense, they were competitive against a larger school. That part's good.
Yeah.
But I don't think Warren Central right now is near the way Warren Central was 8-9 years ago.
Right.
But will Russellville be better than LaRue? Possibly. I don't know. They probably have more team speed overall, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's I would be very surprised if that game is close.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, going back to what we were just talking about with Glasgow's defensive front and the pressure they were getting on LaRue's quarterback, I would just, looking at the tape, the eye test, as they say, LaRue County looked like they had a at least physically good offensive line. They obviously were having a hard time blocking Glasgow. But Russellville, that's been one of their weaknesses, is their offensive front has not been very good since they graduated the huge class and went to the state finals. And that says to me that they're going to have a real hard time dealing with Glasgow up front to get anything done. I mean, it's I'd be surprised if they can run the ball or throw the ball effectively. And it's one of those games that could get out of hand, I do believe.
I agree.
But on the flip side, like you said, there's always things to be corrected and fixed upon, and this is the kind of game that I think Coach Garman and just about any football coach would say, we should win this game, we should win it handily. We just want to get out without injuries and developing bad habits because we can get away with them. And so those are the things that this kind of game. It's a traditional rival, and look, 3 years ago this was a heck of a game between these two, but right now it's not really a fair matchup at the moment. Anything else with the Glasgow Scotties you can think of, John?
No.
Anything stood out to you?
Nothing. I mean, it did not surprise me. The outcome did not. It kind of played out. The game was over quickly.
Yeah.
So that part did not surprise. How was the field? Did you get a chance? It's the first game ever played on that complex. How did that situation go in E-Town?
That looked like it went pretty well. I mean, I've been up there and walked around on that field before. It's kind of just your standard, like the field Barren County has and Warren East and everybody else these days, that kind of turf. It's a little older.
So it's a turf field?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when they made that place up there, it's first rate in every way whenever they built it. And so it's a nice field. Now, I don't know what it would be like to play on. It is a regulation field, even though that's the first high school game played on.
Not a lot of seating, though, right?
No, as a matter of fact, I think they must have put up some because one side of that field, it's built kind of into a hill.
Right.
So I think the side with the press box on it, what's back there is maybe it's the other way around. Anyway, there's a hill on one side where you can basically sit on the hill and look down, onto the field. It's not real high hill, but it's just up there, just grass. So probably a bunch of people in lawn chairs and that kind of stuff up there. And I think the other side has the press blocks and bleachers on it.
Okay.
Which the last time I went up there were no bleachers actually up there, but it wasn't during football season. It was during the spring, so it was during soccer games being played up there. So I don't know. I guess they just have portable bleachers they can bring in and out of there. Anyway. So this Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, John, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag. We're going to talk about the Caverna Colonels. They played a barn burner at Muhlenberg County, ended up winning the game 56-44. I think it got iced with 3 seconds left whenever Russell Williams scooped a fumble and returned it for a touchdown. And they could score. And I think whenever Coach Hayes was in here, I mean, that's kind of what he said. He said he felt like that they were going to be hard to stop, and that's exactly what they were against Muhlenberg County. But you're talking about basically playing 13 people, so... And that's offense, defense, and special teams. There's got to be something that gives, I guess. So the focus would appear to be how many points can we put up. And that may just be the way it has to be for the Colonels this year. I mean, because you've got the twins, Kenyon and Tyson Martin. I think they both scored multiple touchdowns. You've got Russell Williams. You have Cortavian Maxey. You've got, I think, Caleb Burris out there, running around as well. So you've got some guys that can really – I mean, they're fast in the open space. They're hard to deal with because of that speed. You go with the twins, they're both physical. They're going to be hard to get on the ground, and they're fast. So, I mean, you're kind of looking at what are we going to do? We're score as many points as possible, it would seem, and that's basically the way that game panned out for them. and it looked like, for the most part, their biggest weakness, and this wasn't surprising at all, may be defending the pass. They're pretty good physically up front at this point, but you're still talking about guys turning around and getting right back on defense and trying to, the other team's like, okay, we got our best chance to compete with them is to score as fast as possible, so let's chuck the ball. And that seemed to be the thing that they mostly struggled with, was dealing with the passing game, John.
Well, that surprised me. I would be just the opposite, to be honest with you. If I'm playing Caverna, I'd want to keep the ball away from them. So
Yeah.
basically ground it out. Since Caverna is so good offensively, which they are, they're going to put up. They put up a lot of points last year.
Yeah, they did.
So they're going to put up a lot of points. I would think the best way to play Caverna is ball control and keep the ball. But of the 3 games, this one was obviously the most exciting, 56-44. I mean, that is
Right.
that is a shootout. And give Caverna credit. I mean, everybody knows how small of a school they are, where they're going against really a big school in Muhlenberg, who's probably got, Caverna has 300 in their high school. Then Muhlenberg's got close to 1,800 probably.
Right.
And Caverna's numbers just playing wise, they probably I think Trevent said they had 19 kids out.
Yeah.
And almost everybody plays both ways and so forth. And early in the year during the heat, that's in particular that's tough to do.
Right.
But you do get conditioned to it, and I think some of it's just your mind frame too. You know you're going to play,
Yeah.
so you just got to get through it and whatever, and take care of yourself. But the Martin twins are really, really good football players. I mean, they really, really are. They're good. Maxey at quarterback. And then you throw the Williams and people like that in there, and they're not going to have trouble scoring. The question will be, defensively, can they hold up? And it actually surprises me. I would think generally teams that are explosive offensively, their secondary is going to be good defensively.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of those offensive players doing that. So I would have thought that their strength defensively would be their secondary, but to go over there and to beat Muhlenberg, not a great team, but a team that has numbers and so forth, that's a really good win for Coach Hayes and Caverna.
Well, and going back to what you were just saying about a team that's usually explosive offensively, I think part of the deal with them is, you got the twins who are basically playing either ends or linebackers, and so maybe they, float back and try to defend the pass and that kind of stuff, but you are kind of
or they're committing a lot of people just to stop the run, which does make you vulnerable on the backside. That's very possible to support your line. You have more people up there, linebackers closer, and sometimes that will force people to throw over the top.
And I think that is kind of the way they're playing it, because they know that their best players are actually guys who are within that 7 to 10 yards of the box there.
Dare you to throw rather than to run, because if you want the ball back, then that's maybe what you do.
Right. Yeah. If you can score a lot of points, you're like, okay, fine, we'll just play this way, and then
maybe you can get interceptions, or with make somebody throw. It takes actually more execution. You got to throw it and block it and catch it. You know.
And maybe that's the other thing too. Maybe that's the belief that you can get that pressure on that quarterback and make those plays. It's kind of that Bears defense in a way, in the mindset of if you can't get rid of the ball because we're sacking you, then we don't have to worry about your passing game. And maybe that is kind of what's going on when you got the twins and Fryer and some of these other guys up front who can really get after you. Then that's what you're dealing with. And you're more afraid of a team pounding the ball down your throat and you not getting the ball
That's
back.
what I'd be.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe that is kind of what's going on here. But, I mean, in the end, the fourth quarter really was a part that kind of got wild, because at halftime the score was 30-28, which Muhlenberg was out. And then in the third quarter, Caverna scored twice on Kenyon Martin touchdown runs. So they were up 42-30 going in the fourth quarter. And then Muhlenberg hit a touchdown pass, and then Tyson got a touchdown run, and Muhlenberg got a touchdown run from their quarterback with 4 minutes and 1 second left. So Muhlenberg had the ball back with a chance to try to win the game, and then they forced the fumble, and Russell Williams returned it for the touchdown. So it is. I mean, my son was up there, and he's got a video of the play where they forced the fumble. And, I mean, they were just chasing that guy all over the place. The quarterback, he was scrambling for his life trying to get off a pass. And so, I mean, it looked like one of those where they're just coming at you no matter what.
Yeah, it's kind of neat to ice the game by Caverna in terms of they're so prolific offensively, but to get the stop defensively to win the game
Right.
makes it kind of even sweeter in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So now they have a different animal this Friday as well because they're playing Adair County at Marion County. I think the game is at 6 o'clock our time. And I don't know. So Adair County played Russell County on Friday night. I think they beat them 22-16 or something like that.
Right.
And Russell County won one game last year, and I had no idea what to make of that game.
I can't explain to you down here what a big rivalry the two schools have. Mm-hmm. Russell County and Adair County. They stopped playing for about 10 years because every time they play, they'd fight.
Seems so odd.
It's really a real huge rivalry between the two schools.
Yeah.
I don't know if Russell County's better. I don't know, but but sometimes rivalry games make things a little bit tighter, closer.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Adair won, and the quarterback that
Easton
transferred
Jesse,
had a big game.
Yeah.
I saw where he threw for like 200, over 200.
220, I think is what it was.
220, and I may only had like 2 or 3 incompletions and so forth, so
Yeah.
he was solid and so forth. But, Adair will be a much bigger challenge for Caverna than Muhlenberg.
Yeah.
I still think Caverna's going to score.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the question is, can they get ahead, first of all, and can they meaningfully slow down Adair County?
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, obviously Adair is going to want to throw the ball around, and, you've got an experienced quarterback that you're playing against, and can you get the pressure on him to try to make him make some mistakes and then make some plays in your secondary? Because if you look at Caverna, if you look at Adair's stats in that Russell County game, I think they only had like 100 yards, 110 yards rushing and the 220 passing.
That's not bad.
Well, it's not, and that was about 7 different people running the ball, I think. So I think nobody, and one guy may have had 11 carries for 38 yards, something like that. But so it was kind of running just to keep the defense off balance. Obviously, what they want to do is throw it, and so it's going to be an interesting matchup for the Colonels. And you're right. Let's see if they can score enough points to win that game that way, or at least stay in the game. And Adair will be one of the better teams they play this year. They're going to play them, and they'll play Hart County. That'll probably be the 2 best teams they play this year. So we'll see about that. They finish off with Monroe, and real quick before we get out of this segment and we start talking about other stuff, we on Friday night talked about this is a year that Monroe's been waiting for on the football field. They've got all these guys that have been around. I think they're 5-year guys, COVID guys, and they're going to open with Todd County Central, and how that game turned out, meaning not just if Monroe won, but how they won it. We would have an idea of what they were going to look like, and I think they won it 44-13. I think is what it was. It was pretty handily. They beat Todd handily, the way I think they should have, if this is the year that Monroe thinks they're going to have.
Yep. It's a good win. I don't know anything about Todd Central. I know Todd Central's coach went to Butler County.
Yeah.
Todd Central can be good or they can be bad.
Right. There's rarely any in between there.
Exactly right. So we'll see. Do want to congratulate Coach Pettit. I think it was his 100th career win. Mm-hmm. Listen. You probably won't get a gauge for how good teams are for the most part. It takes probably 3 or 4 games down the road.
Yeah.
And then you obviously have to dodge the injury bug too.
Right.
But it's a good start for a lot of teams around here, like you mentioned. Great start for Barren, Glasgow, Caverna. Good win for Monroe. Mm-hmm. All the opponents they played, we'll see down the road. Looking back, whether was that a good win or not, or so forth.
Yeah.
I can just tell you that what I saw at Metcalf, I think Metcalf will be better than people think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We're going to have have some more football conversation coming up, but first we're going to actually talk about some soccer because tonight Barren County and Glasgow play each other over at Barren County at their field that's over by the central office called Trojan Way. I guess it's Trojan Way Extended. It extends across the L. Rogers Wells Boulevard now. But anyway, that game's at 5:30. I'll be heading over there here in a bit whenever we get done with the show to cover the game. And then tomorrow night we have Barren County and Glasgow playing in girls soccer, and I believe that game is at Glasgow. But so that's coming up.
It's in Glasgow somewhere.
Yeah, it's in Glasgow somewhere.
Well, Barren soccer just to get us going in boys. Let's just go boys. Barren is 4-1.
Yep.
Glasgow is 4-3.
Yep.
Barren soccer last week in boys had a good week. They had 3 wins. They defeated Campbellsville 3-1, Allen County district game 5-3, and Nelson County 2-1. And it looks like Junius Smith, right? He had a big week. He scored on all 3 games and had 2 goals against Allen County and Nelson County. And Glasgow 4-3. They defeated Foundation Christian Academy 2-1. Got a return revenge match against Warren East. They had lost the week before, won 5-2. Lost to John Hardin out of E-Town 3-1, and then defeated LaRue 4-3.
Mm-hmm. Now I don't know. John Hardin is one of those programs. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. They're sort of like Todd County in football. So they might be in a pretty good state at this point.
If they defeated Glasgow 3-1, I'd say they're pretty decent.
Yeah, because after the Scotties opened the season with the 2 losses, they've been playing pretty well in the game since then. And then Barren County, they played well last week. You know, I wasn't sure about them the first couple of games of the season. Even though they won them, I wasn't sure how well they were actually playing. And so I was curious to see how that was going to go. The Glasgow girls picked up a win last week. It was their first win in almost 2 years.
Yep, saw that and beat Russellville 5-0.
Yep.
That's congratulations to them.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the things I did an interview with a couple of the seniors afterward, and it's like one of those where I think they have 5 seniors on the team, and these 5 seniors have suffered through a really tough time in the program's history, and so it was good to see them stick with it and good to see them get that win. I mean, they were so excited, and they should be. You know, I mean, they've worked hard for that.
Right.
But now they'll play Barren County tomorrow night. Barren's played pretty well overall.
3-2-1.
Yeah.
Lost to Warren East, the district rival, 1-0.
Yeah.
That Decca Burr, or is it Decca?
Decca Burr, yeah.
Yeah, who's leading scorer in the state last year. So obviously did a good job. She did not score. I think they bracketed her and so forth. And I think they're give Barron's goalkeeper a little credit too. Mm-hmm. Freshman, I think it's Lacey Lockhart. Is that it?
Laney Lockhart.
It's Laney. It's Laney Lockhart. Yeah, and give her credit. Freshman, she's back there doing a good job. And then Barren came back and defeated Franklin 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good win. Shelby Bird, basketball player Shelby Bird's having a good year. She's had 5, 6, 7 goals so far on the year. You know, she's doing a good job. So. It's a game tomorrow night. Barren should be pretty heavily favored against Glasgow.
Yeah, even in the first game that Glasgow played against Warren East, they lost it 8-0. Burr ended up scoring 5 goals in the game. But I was actually impressed with how Glasgow played defense in that game. They just kind of wore down, and they didn't have an offensive attack, which eventually is going to bite you. So it was good to see that they finally started trying to. When you watch them play, they're doing the right things. They're just not quite at the skill level yet, but they'll get there. And they got some younger players that are looking pretty good. They got some. I'll tell you this, John. The Glasgow girls team, they have some freshmen and I think 8th graders coming up. They are athletic, and that's something they've been lacking in recent years as well. They've had some skillful players. They just haven't had people who could really just get out and run. So it's good to see that too. But yeah, you're right. Barren would be a pretty heavy favorite to win the game. Although they played a heck of a game last year in the district, it turned out, Glasgow played pretty well against them last year. So we'll see how that goes. That's tomorrow night at 5:30 as well. One thing I was going to mention here on the cross-country front that got started on Saturday, Barren County's Brody Miller finished second in the Twilight Run over there at, which park is that? Ephraim White Park where they run that. And the Barren County girls ran over there as well. But, yeah, he had a time, I think it's like 16:30, something like that, and the winner was like 20 seconds ahead of him from Marshall County, I think.
Okay, that's good.
So, yeah, he had a good show in there. So, yeah, we got another sport going on at the moment. And then, so.
Volleyball started too.
Yeah, volleyball got started last week. Barren played, I think, 9 games or something like that in the first week.
Yeah, a bunch of games. A lot of them were on Saturday in a tournament. But,
Yeah.
they played a ton of games last week. It's a little confusing on the scoreboard exactly what's going on. There's some the scoreboard's having some difficulty to say the least.
Yeah.
I think they're either 2-5 or 2-7. It's hard to kind of keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, for those who do not know, there was a change in the scoreboard system from last year. Frank Ryherd, who built this thing for the KHSA, a Glasgow native who lives in Nice, France now, has kind of managed this through the years. And so the KHSA made a contract with Arbiter to start using their system, and they've been trying to integrate the system so that the info that goes into Arbiter then is exported into the KHSA scoreboard, and sometimes it's working and sometimes it's not. And for those who listened to the coach interviews, football coach interviews, and even some of the other sports coaches interviews, they talked a little bit about their rosters not being quite right, or they were a little bit surprised if they were, because they're not putting them directly into the KHSA system that people have gotten used to looking at. So there's been some confusion and some complaints and some issues, and so so some of the stats aren't showing up like you would expect them to, and that kind of jazz as well. So it's welcome to the new age, I suppose.
And Glasgow volleyball, by the way, is 2-0. They started off good last week. They defeated Metcalf and Hart County. So
look good in both those, to be honest with you. Let's talk a little bit about some other football stuff that is not high school. The college season got started on Saturday, and a lot of it in the States, but there was one primary game in Dublin, Ireland, where Georgia Tech, unranked, beat Florida State 24-21 on a walk-off field goal. And, John, you're excited about that.
I am. I was glad to see Florida State lose, I'll be honest with you. Just because I'm not a big fan of Florida State, and right now Clemson, too, by the way, suing the ACC to get out of their contract that they signed because they don't like the contract that they signed.
Yeah.
So they're suing to get out of the.
They're hoping to get in the SEC or something, I guess.
That's correct. So they're suing their own conference that they're playing in. So right now they are, and of course they went undefeated last year and did not get after they lost their quarterback. They did not make the Final Four playoffs. They threw a big stink over that, and then proceeded to get beat 61-3 by Georgia in a bowl game. So
yeah.
I was happy to see Georgia Tech, another ACC member, knock off Florida State.
Yeah, another ACC member not suing to get out of the conference.
That's correct. I'm not a big fan of the agreement that you signed. It worked really well for you at one time, and now all of a sudden you don't like it. So sorry, Florida State.
I don't know if many people watched the game played in Dublin, Ireland. It took me a little while because I did not know it was being played in Ireland, and I was trying to figure out what was going on in the stadium because they had the airline that is the Irish airline advertising and all these things, and the billboards and whatnot that were in there, and I was like, where is this game?
Yeah, it's not uncommon. They've been playing over there for the last so many years.
Yeah. I know they kind of started whenever they had Notre Dame go over there and play someone, which made sense.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, it just took me a little bit before I realized, this is in Dublin, Ireland. But anyway, that part was kind of amusing to me. Yes, I was rather happy for Georgia Tech beating Florida State as well because Florida State's been a whole lot of
drama.
Yeah, a lot of drama the last year or so.
Self-inflicted drama.
Yes, and then when they got mollywopped by Georgia last year in the bowl game, I was like, well, that's what you get. You spend so much time worrying about what you didn't get that you get beat down.
Yep.
And then you've kind of just fortified everybody who said, well, you didn't deserve to be in there anyway. And that's neither here nor there, but that's kind of how it turns out. That's the way it looks. And then to lose to Georgia Tech guarantees – doesn't guarantee.
No, it didn't. Not anymore. 12-team playoff.
Yeah, that's right.
It would have last year guaranteed that you're done.
Yeah.
But not now. You still have room to get back into it.
Yeah, but I suspect they will not. So anyway, I was rather amused by that, just like you, to be honest with you. And then our universities here, and Kentucky gets started this weekend. WKU goes down to Alabama. They play at 6 o'clock. I believe we will have that game right here on 104.7 The Score. So if you would like to listen to that and you can't make the trip to Tuscaloosa, then you can do so. Or if you're in Tuscaloosa, you can pull up the 104 The Score app on your phone and listen to the live stream of the game, I do believe. So anyway, yeah. So what do you think about that matchup there?
Well, I mean, it's a situation where obviously Western Kentucky is going to be a monster underdog. Let's just call it the way it is. It's a money game.
Yeah.
They're getting close to $2 million to go down there, I believe.
Yeah.
And but it's also great exposure for university. In fairness, it's exposure for Western Kentucky. It's something that I know when you recruit, you sell the fact that we're going to play Alabama. They played Ohio State last year.
Yeah.
They've played Georgia in the past too. So you know, it's you're going to get a couple of these games like that if you come play for Western Kentucky. You know, it's they're going to get a lot of exposure because I think a lot of people are interested in Alabama.
Right.
First year that Nick Saban's gone. So they got the new coach coming in and so forth. I think Alabama's fifth in the nation right now.
Correct, yeah.
That may be a little low because I do think the coach that's coming in from Washington is good.
He proved he was pretty good last year at Washington.
Their quarterback had a really good end of last year. I think his name is Melrose.
Yeah.
A very good quarterback. So we'll see. I mean, I think what Coach Helton and Western want to do is just want to be competitive. I'm interested in see who's going to get the call as of right now on Monday. Western Kentucky has not announced their quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm interested in see if the kid out of Bowling Green,
Veldkamp,
who had such a great bowl game, wins that job or not. It's a battle of him and the transfer they brought in.
Yeah, T.J. Finley, who's been getting a lot of preseason watch list stuff.
So we'll see who wins that now. And, of course, I'm happy for our Glasgow connection.
Yeah, Dalvin
Smith. And,
well, I figure Aiden Miller might get to play some, too.
I was going to get ready to say we have also Aiden Miller, who's a tight end, last I checked, but also may play on special teams and so forth. So I know a lot of local people that will probably try to go down to Alabama, obviously just to watch not just Western, but with their sons and nephews and so forth like that. So I wish them the best.
Yeah, so I'm interested in that too. I'm interested to see because Dalvin Smith has also gotten a lot of preseason watch list stuff.
He's finally been healthy for over a year.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to see what he looks like in that environment. I mean, he's had 2 bowl games in a row that were outstanding. I mean, that one last year was one that was a put you on the map kind of game.
Tough start for if this is your first game as a quarterback. Though.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very difficult environment.
Yeah, that's how much time do you have to throw the ball? It's not much.
Well, I mean, you're going to be playing in front of 80,000 people
True.
too. There's probably,
it's an awe-inspiring situation.
Alabama is probably the best college football program of all time. So it would be a great experience regardless, I'm sure.
Well, and then Louisville is hosting Austin Peay on Saturday. I think that's an 11 a.m.
It's 11 a.m. game. It should be, Louisville should easily roll over Austin Peay. And I think they have some unfinished business from last year, which they kind of faded at the end of the year. But I think their quarterback this year is much, much better than the Plummer kid that they had last year.
Yeah.
I think he's much better. 7 year in college, though. He started off in Oregon as Justin Herbert's backup.
Are you for real?
Yeah. And then he was at Texas Tech or one of the Texas schools or whatever, and has coming off a broken leg one year, broken clavicle, broken whatever. So he has not been able to finish a season for the last 3 years, and that's why he's granted this 7th year. But he has big time potential. Jeff Brom has, I think, 3 guys in the NFL that are proteges of his system.
Yeah,
and so. If he is as good as I think he's going to be, I think Louisville will be really, really good this year.
Sounds like he's one of those. If he can stay upright, he could have an outstanding season.
Got to stay healthy. He's athletic, so he likes to get out sometimes, but I don't think he's going to run near as much. But he's in the best situation he's ever been in with Brom as his head coach and play caller.
And then Kentucky hosts Southern Miss. I guess I'm rooting for Southern Miss to win this game, John.
Well, I'm sure you are. Kentucky has not had the best off season I've ever heard, to be honest with you, especially Coach Stoops. You know, there've been some issues kind of floating around. You know, some of that was him complaining about the NIL money and this and that, and it's pretty evident that he tried to get the Texas A&M job and didn't get it.
Yeah.
Their quarterback, again, this is just kind of the way it is right now. It doesn't seem like anybody develops a lot of quarterbacks. They just go out and get them. Is the backup from Georgia?
Yeah,
is going to be the quarterback, and of course Boley, the phenom freshman, probably third string right now. He's not really ready, but so Kentucky is. They should beat Southern Miss. They better beat Southern Miss because their schedule's brutal. I mean, they've got Georgia and Tennessee as usual, but I think they've got Texas on their schedule as well now, and they've got a really, really difficult schedule, to say the least. But it's a night game it's a late afternoon game against Southern Miss, and Southern Miss they're not quite the Southern Miss of several years ago, but they occasionally fire up and have good football teams. They're kind of one of those mid-majors that can be very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not paid a whole lot of attention to them this year. They do have a coach right now that I quite like. His name's Will Hall. But they should have been better last year because they had Frank Gore's son coming back. I mean, he decided to stick around. And they had injuries. Their quarterback play wasn't great. Their defense wasn't great. They had all kinds of things that didn't go well last year. And it's kind of, for the Southern Miss people, it's kind of one of those where they're looking and saying, all right, you are the guy who's supposed to be the rebirth of this program, and year 1 and 2 look pretty good. Year 3 looked like a hot mess. What is year 4 going to look like? And he's kind of in that position right now. Maybe not a hot seat, but one of those, if you get to the end of the year and it's still a hot mess, it definitely will be it for him, I would guess. Because these days, I mean, you can't languish around in college football for very long. Otherwise, your recruiting will drop through the floor, and then that's that.
I don't know how you do it at that level.
Yeah, I don't either.
With the amount of money that Ole Miss can throw around.
Oh, yeah.
Mississippi State, NIL money, and just free transfers. It's very difficult.
Yeah. I was trying to think, was it Ohio State where I saw they spent basically $20 million in, I guess, NIL money? Not just NIL money, but just everything that they put into the program to try to build, a national title team this year.
Wouldn't surprise me. Or just to buy one. A lot of teams are just trying to buy it. A lot of teams just try to buy it.
Yeah, that was the implication of the story, was basically they just spent $20 million to try to buy themselves a national title.
Yeah. Well, that's...
The way it is, huh?
I guess.
So what are some other things that you're looking forward to with the college football season? How curious are you, not just with the 12-team playoff, but the process of getting there this year?
I like the 12-team. The only thing I like about college football right now is the 12-team. That's it. I don't like the transfer situation. I don't mind name, likeness, image, or any of that stuff. I don't dislike that.
Yeah.
But I don't like paying people just to come play. And
that feels kind of dirty in amateur sports.
It is.
Who do you think can win the national title this year?
I mean, I don't think much has changed. I mean, it's like Georgia, Ohio State. I mean, it's the same ones. I think Oregon's really good.
Yeah.
Alabama's good. That probably hasn't changed. There's more people going to be invited to the party, which will make it a little bit more interesting.
Do you think in football it can function the same way it does in the NCAA tournament? Even though a lot of times you end up with chalk at the end, the early part of it is pretty exciting because of the named teams being bumped off by the no-name teams and that kind of stuff.
I think the playoff will be really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to, like I said, to me, I just got to hold my nose and just, look the other way and just enjoy it when they get out there.
The game itself.
The game itself, you know. It's like sausage being made or bologna, you just don't I just don't want to hear about it or see about it.
Just fry it and slap it on some white bread and let's move on.
I mean, it's a shame that's the way it is, but that's how I look at it right now.
The NFL season kicks off next week.
And I like the NFL better. I mean, at least it's more pure. You know what you're getting. They are pros, right.
I mean, the money is the money.
And there's salary caps and drafts, salary caps, 32 teams, let's go.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the preseason?
I don't watch the preseason much.
Yeah,
no.
I know you don't.
No.
I think the only parts, like I've told you before, the only parts I ever watch about that stuff is for the people who I've heard of from something else.
Right.
And you see them out there, and you're like, all right, I like that dude. I hope he makes the cut.
Right.
And so that part excites me a little bit. Sort of like when I watch bowl games. the part I'm interested in is, getting to see somebody that you don't see and that kind of thing, because they're being overshadowed by the top end of college athletics, college football and all that. So, all right, it's the Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.